A definite staple of our childhoods was coming home from school and watching episodes of Code Lyoko. 4 seasons, 97 episodes, and an opening that lives rent-free in our minds. And a lot of us kids discovered our type with Yumi, or Odd, or Jim. What we know as Code Lyoko started out as a pilot episode called Garage Kids. From there, it was then made into what we know as Code Lyoko, a story about 4 friends hanging out and sneaking off to a warehouse where they would upload themselves into a virtual reality world where they would fight monsters like a video game, trying to undo the world's damage done by Xana, a super evil virus, and returning to the past. And for a 14-year-old boy who loved anime, this was plenty enough for me to enjoy. It had action, cringy jokes, awkward moments, hinted romance, and a dog. Also, way too many awkward shots of these guys changing and taking showers. That's coming from somebody who watches anime. But I mean, I guess I don't expect anything else from the French. The premise of each episode was simple. It revolves around an issue between friends or school. Then Xana attacks. They go to the virtual world to help Aelita and undo the damage done by Xana. Then they come together and solve the issue they had at the beginning of the episode. Every episode, we're used to seeing Odd, Yumi, Ulrich, or even eventually Aelita virtualizing themselves into Lyoko. But there are actually a lot more characters than you think that have sent themselves to the virtual world of Lyoko, including villains, friends, and even a dog. So today, let's look at every single character who has been virtualized in Code Lyoko. You can't start any topic of the world of Lyoko without mentioning Franz Hopper, a scientist who created a supercomputer and Lyoko. Originally working with the military and Project Carthage, he caught wind of the dark and poor intentions the military had planned for the supercomputer, causing him to pack up and escape. He would then work on the supercomputer in secret, redoing the same day over and over again for 7 years. Alongside his partner and future wife, Anthea, he would create the world we know today as Lyoko, aiming to create a perfect sanctuary for him and his wife and his daughter Aelita. While creating Lyoko, he also knew his past work could come back to haunt him, prompting him to create Xana, a program designed to destroy his former work on the Carthage project. Tragedy struck when Men in Black found Hopper and his family and took Anthea away, who was never heard from again. Hopper was able to get away with Aelita and relocate to France as he finished the supercomputer and virtualized himself and his daughter into Lyoko, making this the first instance where characters were virtualized into the virtual world. This is when Xana betrayed Hopper, leading him to sacrifice himself to activate the anti-Xana program, a failsafe to eradicate the virus to ensure the world's safety. Hopper himself is still spread out inside Lyoko, and although his whereabouts are unknown, fragments of himself and his subconscious are still spread along Lyoko, allowing him to make appearances in the story and even possessing Sissy at one point. And now with that backstory out of the way, we can move on to the next character that was virtualized, Aelita, the daughter of Franz Hopper. When we meet Aelita, she is just a girl Jeremy talks to inside the supercomputer who helps the gang stop Xana. Upon discovering her, Jeremy sets out to figure out a way to virtualize her back into the real world. Regardless, her presence is very important to fighting off Xana attacks. She enters an infected tower and enters the Code Lyoko to shut down any plot or scheme that Xana is putting onto the world. Aelita is a young girl with pink hair, and in the world of Lyoko, she has more of an elf-like appearance with long ears and earrings. Biologically, she is around 12 to 13 years old, but due to being locked inside of Lyoko for so long, technically she's 22 years old. The majority of the first part of the show, she is inside of Lyoko, just hanging out and talking to Jeremy and helping out when she can. This is until Jeremy is able to figure out the program to virtualize her into the real world. After much trial and error and Odd accidentally dropping candy onto a computer to accidentally get a perfect code, and then they have to use it for Yumi instead of Aelita because she accidentally died, Aelita is eventually brought into the real world where she lives with Yumi. Once they brought Aelita into the real world, their mission was done and they decided to shut down the supercomputer and Xana along with it. Unfortunately, when shutting it down, they learned that Xana had placed a virus onto Aelita, linking her to Lyoko. So if Lyoko shuts down, so does Aelita. Aelita becomes close with all of our friends in the group through hanging out with each other and fighting Xana together. She learns about the world outside that she has missed, and most notably, she is closer to Jeremy as the two spend the most time together and have a very close connection. Although she is not much of a fighter, it doesn't mean that she isn't left without abilities. She can control energy fields, and this power evolves through the course of the show, from just a small jolt of energy to large enough shots to de-virtualize the Xana-infected William, although this leaves her exhausted from using it. Being connected to Lyoko itself, she is able to control the lands and the aspects of the virtual world, manipulating the landscapes, creating clones of herself, or sensing when there are towers and monsters ahead. Not often used, but Aelita is also able to use her powers of creativity to temporarily encase monsters in a block of ice to buy time. Later, she also gets a cool pair of energy wings which she flies around with, which is pretty rad. Another member of our original crew is Odd Della Robbia, a blonde-haired young man with a purple streak in his hair. Odd is more of the laid-back and carefree member of the group, liking girls and music, and just enjoying his time as a student. Odd is known for ignoring the rules and normally just goes with the flow with a lot of things. Born in Italy to a family of artists, his father being an opera singer and mother working on films as a script supervisor, he had 5 older sisters that took care of him while his parents were out working late. Eventually, due to them never being home and being able to be there for Odd, they enroll him into the Caddick Academy when he was 12, a school where you can have dorms and live on campus where they wouldn't have to worry about him so much. Odd would become friends with our group and then become roommates with Ulrich. Along with Kiwi, Odd's dog, he snuck into the dorm room, which is completely against the rules, but we'll get to Kiwi later. He is also a bit of a ladies' man mentioned before, where he says that he has dated every girl in the 8th grade. Once virtualizing into Lyoko, Odd takes on more cat-like features along with the agility of one. A weapon that is iconic to Odd is his laser arrows. Lasers he is able to shoot out of his wrists. In the beginning, only having 10, which made him vulnerable if he ran out. This weakness was later fixed when Jeremy preloaded 10,000 arrows into his inventory. Another unique power of Odd's is his future flash, giving him the ability to see the future at random moments involuntarily. This is often to help friends out, although sometimes it holds moments he cannot change that are more devastating. For example, showing Yumi falling into the void where he could not stop it. This ability was accidentally deleted when Jeremy updated the supercomputer. Jeremy, deciding that it was useless, did not put it back into Odd's programming. Feeling disappointed by not having a special power besides his laser arrows, Jeremy decided to program another power into Odd's teleportation. It did bug out in the beginning, creating clones of Odd instead, and that was fixed by the end of the episode. Jeremy offered to reinstate the ability, but Odd declined, saying that the powers he decided to settle on were fine, and gets a small shield instead. Odd doesn't use skill or tactics when fighting, but there are more instinctive reactions. This either helps him keep the enemy at their toes and catching them off guard, or it gets him in trouble and the first one to be defeated or caught in a battle. Odd is definitely one of the more eccentric characters of the group, leading him to be a fan favorite by far. And fun fact, originally his hair was slicked back, but after entering Lyoko and seeing his character design, he started styling it to match the one on Lyoko. And to get this high spike style, he gels his hair upside down. Next, we have Ulrich, who is a young man with scruffy brown hair who is one of the original members of the group. Normally, he is withdrawn, and he does attract a lot of friends and people with his looks and athletic ability, most notably Missy, who is always trying to admire him and make comments about how better she is compared to his friends, especially being Yumi. Inside Lyoko, Ulrich takes on the form of a samurai with a katana at his hip. This is later changed to a yellow and brown suit with a second katana. Being known as the best fighter in the group along with his athletic ability, he is known for his martial arts skills. His weapon, the katana, which can do all the things a sword could do obviously, can also absorb laser blasts and deflect it depending on how powerful they are. This doesn't work with mega tank blasts or block ice beams. And he probably found this out the hard way. Ulrich has a long line of abilities in his arsenal. One of these is a super sprint that leaves a yellow stripe behind him, much like in Tron, where he used to be able to move fast around the world of Lyoko. Triplicate allows Ulrich to deploy 2 identical hyper-realistic holograms of himself that can cause damage, but they are highly fragile themselves, as it only takes 1 hit to destroy them. Triangulate uses his clones to form a triangle around their target to make a golden barrier. This is used to confuse the target so Ulrich can destroy it. He also has enhanced superhuman reflexes that lets Ulrich sense things like laser attacks even if there are behind him, allowing him to dodge. And one of the most notable things Ulrich is known for is his feelings towards Yumi. This makes him make mistakes or act on his own, even if that decision is dumb. For example, when Yumi's parents were about to move away because of a different job, he used the return to the past ability on his own to buy a winning lottery tickets for her parents, so they didn't have to move. But hey, love makes you do dumb things.
They said that love can make you a little crazy.
What did you just say?
That Ulrich isn't always that bright.
After that.
And speaking of Yumi Ishiyama is the only other female member of the group besides Aelita. Born in Kyoto, Japan, her family immigrated to France but continues to raise her under traditional Japanese values. For example, showing absolute respect to her parents, and she dislikes having conflict with them, while also having the usual angst of an average teenager. Yumi's personality is mostly distant, matching her gothic American fashion, wearing all black clothes and boots. Her avatar inside Lyoko wears a skirt-length kimono, red leggings, and hand-length sleeves. Her face being powdered like the white traditional geisha girl. Her most notable relationship is with Ulrich, as mentioned before. They avoid the topic mostly to keep things ambiguous, leading to a lot of conflict and stress throughout the show, although their feelings are pretty obvious. A character we will mention later is William Dunbar, a student who shows very heavily romantic interest in Yumi. Although the feelings need to be addressed, in Yumi's words, he is a bit too clingy for me. But in Ulrich's eyes, he sees tension, misunderstandings, and it causes jealousy. Although in the beginning it was shown that Yumi was intentionally interested in the feelings that William was giving. Ulrich is known for having the best martial arts skills, but that isn't to say that Yumi isn't capable herself, and even able to keep up with Ulrich in hand-to-hand combat. In Lyoko, she is wielding 2 folded fans that are as strong as steel. She can also throw them to cause damage at the enemies or block blasts with them. Yumi is also known for her stealth form called Ninja Mode, who she even teaches this to Odd. Despite his age, Jeremy Belpois is a genius scientifically. Instead of being virtualized during battles, Jeremy supports the gang from behind the computer, informing his friends of health, status, weaponry, and anything else they may need to know. Being the one who discovered the supercomputer and Aelita along the way, he has a special attachment to Aelita, dedicating himself to finding a way to bring her back into the world and stopping Xana along the way. Sporting simple clothes and glasses, Jeremy gives off an immediate nerdy vibe. And despite his timid and very nerdy look, he has no problem showing his butt to people who call him or his friends out. Now, I mentioned this is all characters who are virtualized into Lyoko, and you may think the man behind the chair wouldn't be on the list. In episode 19 Frontier, Aelita and Jeremy get into an argument, which leaves Jeremy asking Yumi and the others for help to get him uploaded into the supercomputer so he can apologize to her face to face. This leads him to get lost inside Lyoko, and there's a whole episode to get him back. Ulrich kisses Sissy and it's a whole thing, but they're able to save Jeremy and virtualize him back into the real world. Also, Jeremy and Aelita share the same voice actress, which is a pretty cool fact. Earlier we spoke of William Dunbar, a student who immediately clicked with Yumi, causing tension between him and Ulrich. William is equal parts laid back as he is hot-headed and immature. He shows up very unapologetically on how he acts and inputs himself into almost every situation involving Yumi. He likes her and can be very pushy to the point where it's borderline harassment. Aside from his rough encounters with Ulrich and his passes at Yumi, he earns the trust and shows the gang he can eventually become a member of Lyoko to help stop Xana. He shows potential in fighting people that were under Xana's control and even defuses a bomb. With Xana continually getting strong, there are too many close calls as of late. Jeremy suggests that they invite William to join by show of vote. Everyone votes yes except for Yumi. So following this, he is virtualized into Lyoko with the gang. Unfortunately, his hot-headed, laid-back attitude, along with not being focused on the battlefield, led him to be the perfect target for Xana. In one battle, Xana swoops in and uses a Cyphozoa to control his mind and body, trapping him inside of Lyoko. With William gone, Jeremy creates a clone of him with his memories to help prevent suspicion at school. Clones are something we'll get to later, but eventually William is free from Xana's control, but the damage has already been done emotionally to the team. Everyone seems to have disdain towards William, not just for being taken control of, but how he acted to be able to get control in the first place. In the live action, which is apparently a sequel to the show, not a remake, William spends most of his time trying to redeem himself from the mistakes he made. William's weapon of choice is, for any hot-headed teenager in a video game, is wielding a big-ass sword. The Zweihander, or two-hander, is a large blade used for swinging at baddies and can also shoot energy slashes from it. Other abilities include Super Smoke, which can transform him into a sentient cloud to move around to avoid people, on top of throwing smoke to suspend others. Under Xana's control, he was able to move objects from super far away, levitate, and activate towers mimicking Aelita's powers. So let's go over clones right quick, because I feel like that's a big thing to just throw in here. Xana and Jeremy have the ability to create clones. Xana through a monster known as the Polymorphic Spectre that can take the form of any human it is imitating. This monster can take the form of anything inside of Lyoko and outside of Lyoko, leading to some interesting, confusing situations for our team. Almost all of the cast has been copied, including Jim. The other clones are made by Jeremy to help with tricky missions. As I mentioned before, it was able to help with people not knowing William was missing. One of these clones Jeremy used to trick Xana into thinking Aelita was virtualized, but instead she stayed behind to rewrite a program while the Aelita clone went into the program. Then there is Odd's dog Kiwi. Odd attempted to sneak Kiwi into Lyoko, which led them merging bodies and personalities. This required Jeremy to use a special program to materialize them back to normal, but for a minute Odd and Kiwi were joined at the body inside and outside of Lyoko. This also should mean that Kiwi retains the memories of all the times they returned to the past, which is probably disorienting for this dog, but I'm sure there's no side effects. But those are all the characters that were virtualized into Lyoko. If I missed one, please let me know down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is a new channel that we're trying to make content for every week. And if you want to hear about more Lyoko content, also let me know down below. Check out our other videos, and I'll see you next time.